Tim or Lori, can you answer that question for us?
I'll
let Tim go first.
Being
Great.
rural right now, you might hear a tractor up on the ridge here behind me. It just plowed right through the back here. So yeah, rural schools, small schools. In our county, we have K-12 buildings, and that's pretty crazy. But at the end of the day, we have these smaller spaces, these older spaces, and I think what you have to do is just at the end assess what type of space you have, and then determine, from my perspective, the continuity that you can create between each one. I want to mention something that Aaron had talked about, so Stephanie had talked about in relationship to play and creativity. Some of the best creativity comes from our kids. You give them a 4-inch poly spot or a 4-inch colored spot on the ground and say, I forgot, can you show me how to do that again? Can you show me what you can do? And all of a sudden kids will really just blossom with their opportunity. But getting back to the rural part and the lack of funding, quite honestly,
yeah.
I think you have to be a little bit creative with what you have in your spaces. So for me, right over my right shoulder is the best sensory pathway that ever existed. Right, it's getting outside, being engaged, and being involved with your environment. Sometimes there's great areas to go in the back 40 behind your school and to use those spaces. So, Lori?
So being in a rural school district, you have limited equipment to start with. So the creativity side comes out, and feed off of the kids' interests, like what's hot in their world. And I know, I'm not a fan of Fortnite, I'm going to be honest, but those dances that those kids like to celebrate, and we'll play a little game, and right. If you achieve the skill, go ahead, you get to celebrate and do your Fortnite dance, and tap into what interests them, and it doesn't have to involve really expensive equipment. You just got to be a little more creative. So
I was talking to someone the other day, and we were brainstorming some ideas, and they were saying, they don't even know if they're allowed to, take the kids down the street for a walk. And so in terms of a rural school, to my mind, it's, out in the forest, if you've got one, or in the farm. And I remember it was like really early COVID, and everybody, like I said, we're in New York, so everybody was locked down. My 11-year-old really needs to get some activity out. And so he and I, we came up with a sensory pathway outside with things we found in the backyard and in the barn. We have an old barn. And so it was like rope and some bricks and some stuff. And he had so much fun just laying it out. It was a little bit of scavenger hunt and a little bit of, I was trying to keep him focused on stations and how the movements were sequenced and stuff. But they had a good time. I think we can come up with a lot more ideas too here. Like I said, we are recording these questions. So I think that we'll put this together in an email to you folks. Thanks, Tim, for your question, and thanks, Lori and Tim, for answering. Let's go on to the next question. And I think that is just a very common question, because everybody is trying to understand what is required of them, and every school is different, and every budget's different, and every teacher's different. So I think that's probably a Lori question at this point.
So Steve, first of all, how you doing? I'm glad that you were able to join today. I feel like you could have been in this seat because you are amazing. But I think it's a question that everybody has and we're all struggling with. One thing, and I did put this in the chat, my coworker and I, we had a little meeting about this, and whether we are in the gymnasium or in a classroom or outside, we know that we have a resource that was created by Tom Mandera from Victor School. I don't know if you remember, he created a program called +5 Fitness. When Tom created this, the intent was to push meaningful physical activity into the classroom so the kids could have brain breaks right by their desk space. And we have a series of his CDs, and I put them on my iTunes, and we've had them for years. So we're going to bring back +5 Fitness. I was just looking at his Facebook page, and back in 2017 they put an app out, and they said it was $3 at the time, but I've just been looking for it. I can't find the app currently, but I know we can reach out to Tom and ask him what format his +5 Fitness is in now for more people to access it, because I think it's a great solution to this. But again, it's just 5 minutes, but it's a nice way to get started. The minimal space, we have visions of doing mini stations, and each station having very minimal equipment. So it's all very self-guided. Well, self-guided. It's one-on-one. Me, my equipment, my target, my hula hoop, whatever the challenge is. And my coworker and we started back in February washing equipment prior to kids coming into the gym, hand sanitizer. You know, we did this whole thing back in February when we first heard that this was hitting overseas. So we kind of started the process, and we have an idea of the timeline it takes to clean the equipment in between classes. So we want to use equipment that we can wash. That was another thing that we want to keep our hands on. So that was, I guess my answer to your question is I'm looking for mini stations and just something that I can use, whether I'm in a classroom, in the gymnasium, or outside. I hope that helps. Am I frozen?
Definitely that 10 to 12 distance is again really, really important. That seems to be the consensus in terms of PE. Thanks, Lori. Let's move on to the next question. Dr. Tim, and I think our OTs and PTs and our behavior specialist, Marianne, can weigh in a little on this too. Dr. Tim, can you start us off?
You bet. Is that our question from California, maybe? I think there was one piece in there, another one. Anyway, when we're talking about kids, kiddos with severe, profound, multiple disabilities, comorbidity with more mobility issues and movement, engagement, I'm always first to go down the sensory path, engage them on a sensory level. So when I talk about sensory path, it's not that physical thing. It's actually engage them from the standpoint of tactile, vestibular, proprioceptive, auditory, visual, those key elements that we need to engage our kids. If we're doing this in a virtual setting or a virtual environment, boy, that's really tough. So you need things that are cause and effect. You need equipment that will engage them, whether it's a homemade piece of equipment such as a shaker bottle, or a clear plastic bottle with beads in it, and they can shake it and move it as you move to follow you in pattern, like the copycat game that's up there. That's a perfect example, but that could be done virtually. You can do this. You can do any type of activity depending on their ability to engage you on a virtual level. Connecting with their sensory needs. Obviously, you're going to need to engage the parent to help you with that if it's in a virtual space. There was another part of the question that dealt with assessment, Pam, and school districts are not off the hook in regards to U.S. Department of Ed mandates and in regards to assessment. So first and foremost, I would say that you have to get permission, obviously, from the parent. That can be tricky in this situation. They will accept electronic signatures, those types of things, but you want to check with your committee on special ed director, your special ed director, to ensure they should have all that information available to you. RightsLaw.com is a really great website, so detailed, that has tons of information on it that deals with assessment. But there were two most current pieces from the U.S. Department of Ed that speak specifically to Part B and Part C under IDEA, the Individuals with Disabilities Education Act, that mandates that these services, number one, continue, that assessment continues, and that as teachers, we're pressed to engage our students in regards to their progress towards specific IEP goals.
Marie Ann, maybe we can start off with you. Can you lead us on that question?
Sure. You know, this is actually a few of my students that were, you know, they're going to be starting school come fall. Very active. You know, we have 5 minutes of table work, and then we're kind of going out into a space where he could be moving. And you know, that's really our structure of a first we're doing some work, and then we're going and doing the movement. And we're actually, the district this child's in has limited it so that his movement breaks that he has almost every 5 minutes is usually going for a quick walk in the hall and doing something like those sensory pathways or a scooter movement. And they're actually limiting him from going into the hall. So part of it is what can we do in that classroom, and I think that's where, you know, it's incorporating. I think that's going to be a big struggle, and from me, you know, that's what where I was thinking is, wow, good opportunity to put some sort of physical sensory pathway, anything like that, in the classroom, right in the classroom, and be able to be changing it up, you know, weekly and having different pathways and something like that. At least it can be in the classroom and not in the hall. So I hope that helped answer some of the question there.
Yeah. What about Erin? Can you weigh in on that?
Yeah. I think this is sometimes where you can pull in technology to increase movement. You know, sites like Go Noodle, you know, or even auditory music like Lori Berkner Band, you know, or things where, you know, there's auditory, there's visual movement where kids can follow along. It's fun, and it's quick, you know. I mean, a song or a little snippet online, there's 2 to 3 minutes. You know, that's all you need, just a little break, and a fun break, and that. The other thing I would say would be games, like Simon Says. You know, spread out, do a quick game of Simon Says, take turns being the leader, depending on what level you're at and, you know, what age you're teaching. Those are just, you know, a couple ideas I could quick think off the top of my head. But I like the idea of, you know, creating those sensory pathways throughout the classroom. I mean, you could crawl under a desk, you could march around, you know, you could become a band, you could become a circus, whatever it is in your own classroom space, as long as you know, have the room to spread out as required.
Thank you. Thank you. Stephanie, Dr. Stephanie,
Sure.
Can you weigh in on that too?
Everybody has such excellent ideas. I think when I really kind of zone in on the environment and think about the classroom setting, and simplicity is probably the biggest key of maybe not having as many things in the classroom. That would obviously be helpful with trying to have less things to clean and to keep up with that. But when you talk about objects that need to be maintained and cleaned, that is going to be a lot of work if we have more things. So we can use that creativity piece of it by having what Lori mentioned about those video and Erin with technology, like all of those ideas to be able to just do a quick, students do not need very long time frames, 3 to 5 minutes movement and then get back to work. So that pattern is helpful throughout. As Marie Ann mentioned, you know, that first let's do something to get our bodies ready and then let's go to work and go back and forth with that. But absolutely simplicity, I think, is the key in the environment to be able to have less things, but then use your creativity to be able to have the kids play and move during the transitional times that they can throughout the day and incorporate in a schedule. That's the most biggest, I think, another takeaway is somehow to put that within a time frame, you know, or of course, if you just see that they're kind of, you know, getting a little wiggly and so forth, and you need that spontaneous break. Yeah.
Right, right. Thank you so much. That's a great question. Let's put that answer to, how about Lori? Can you answer that question for us?
So You're asking about brain breaks, like during like a
Yeah.
lot of sitting time, like Marie Ann was just mentioning, like getting your body ready. And I mean, it could be done really quick. Like what we did daily to get every lesson going. Our older classes levels, we would throw in a Tabata. And I think I could do a Tabata in a classroom setting. I would really structure it so that it can be done next to your desk. But it's just a Tabata is a 4-minute activity where we do 20 seconds of moving at your pace. So a student who is less flexible doesn't have to try to beat, you know, the superstar over here, but they'll still be going through the same activity. So they do 20 seconds of the skill, a 10-second break. You prepare a 4-skill Tabata, and you go through it for 2 rounds. And we've done them daily before our lesson actually started, just to get the kids ready. So this is get our bodies ready, and then this is what we're going to do. And I think I could do a Tabata in a classroom. And our younger kids, it could be simply just playing a little music, and then for 20 seconds we're marching, and then we're gonna jump, and we're gonna hop like a frog, and we're gonna be in that little space. I know people. I was looking at the chat. Somebody was concerned about the number of students, and I know our district is looking at every class is going to be half size. So when I'm making these references, I'm looking at 10 students. If I'm PE in the classroom, I'm in the classroom with 10 students. So for me, I can visualize this space, I can visualize this activity, and that would be something I would lean on for a quick break.
Yep, that's great.
The loss of our gyms, the loss of physical education space. That's an indirect message that says physical education is not valued. That's a concern.
I know.
I have a serious issue about that, and there are many programs around the country that have already cut the physical education along with what they reference as music, art, and PE. Remember that physical education is a direct service under federal mandate, federal law. Physical education, as we know, and physical activity is critical to the health and well-being of all children. So, narrowing that opportunity down, I need something else. We need to advocate with our directors, our school administrators, to say, listen, we need more space. We need to engage this and come up with an answer. And whether I'm outside for part of the day, which a beautiful day like today is great, but upstate New York, it is not going to look like this.
Right.
Even by December. So we're going to have to figure out what we're going to be doing in order to engage quality physical education, number one, daily physical activity throughout the day, number two, and number three, can we do it in small space like Lori suggested in the classroom? Having a spot right next to my desk, I can get up, I can stand on it, I can jump on it, I can put one foot on it and run around it one way, run around it the other. I could do the Tabata, I could do go noodle, I could do so many things to prepare my body to learn. Whether I'm clapping my hands to hold a pencil, or whether I'm engaging my body, my whole body, to be able to listen, to attend visually, whatever it happens to be, without the movement, learning isn't going to happen.
Yeah, and so, hold on, Lori, and just so we're expecting, the expectation, the needs is that, okay, 12 feet apart in the gymnasium. So does that mean 12 feet apart in the classroom, and how is that going to be?
That's what I wanted to talk about, and Amy had brought that up. She said in her district they're trying to figure it out, 6 feet, how are we supposed to do it with 12 feet in the classroom. New York State Health Department guidelines are saying 12 feet for high cardiovascular activities, and it also pertains to musical instruments, so like in band, they also do the 12 feet. So, yeah, so with, again, my coworker and I, and we're okay, I understand we're planning on being in the classroom. We may be, we don't know, but if we're in the classroom, they're not taking our teaching space. They're using that possible scenario under a COVID guideline to keep the kids from traveling in the hallways. So our teaching space is still our teaching space. It hasn't been taken over. But if we were in the classroom, our plan was to either do a +5 fitness, a Tabata, get the kids moving, get them ready to learn, and then kind of introduce one of our platform assignments that we would be doing in a remote learning setting. Use it as a, this is what the assignment should look like, this is the kind of space you're going to need as a teachable moment, and then have them take it home as a homework assignment. And then we can talk about it next time we're together. So understanding we're not going to get full activity in that full 30 minutes or 45 minutes that we're with the students within that classroom setting, we're going to be reaching more cognitive lessons, and our physical activity within the lesson will be restrained just because of the space and time that we are confronted with.
Yeah, it's a real challenge. I feel like that's a question where I have to like take some time and think about offline, because there's a lot of spatial requirements that are needed. Every classroom's different size. Usually, I think it's like 20 feet by 30 feet. So how does that look like?
Well, I'm thinking about grade level outcomes, specifically, our physical education standards and the grade level outcomes and/or goals that we've established. And if you're not familiar with those, make sure you go to shapeamerica.com and you get that information right away. That'll help guide you into your grade level curriculum, kindergarten right on through. Lori, I know you know lots about this, so I'm going to turn it over to you in a second. But at the end of the day, you need to target what those specific goals are. We can move away or off of some of that curriculum that's heavy with manipulatives, objects that need to be cleaned, but we can't move away from fundamental motor skills. We can't move away from movement and motor activities that will help kids be physically active and healthy throughout the day. That's just absolutely critical. But there is some flexibility within the content that you teach in the curriculum and then what you assess on as you go forward. If it's specific to an IEP, specific to a child's fundamental motor skills and or physical activity goals and objectives that you may have, that often is linked to functionality and placement. If they're in general PE, we're going to stick with those grade level outcomes. But if they're in a separate situation, if they're in an adapted PE class or they're more removed from the general PE setting and have those IEP goals, you need to make sure those goals are functional and you're able to work on those in the capacity of the environment that you're in.
I think Tim's spot on. I think there's a lot of flexibility within the way that the standards are written to reach the assessment values that we need. But I think going back into this, I think we need to keep in mind that this is going to be a fluid situation. It's not going to be a permanent and forever. So we only have to get through. I'm gonna go with a few months, and I know that's not a real hard date because it could be November, January, it could be April, and all of the guidelines are going to change as we go along through the time. But I would say start with the basic, the fundamental skills. Keep with things that the students will have success on, and keep building them up and keep building those relationships so they stay with you. Like, you've got to keep them connected, because if we throw stuff at them that they can't connect with, we're going to lose them altogether. You're not going to be able to assess anything. So I think we almost have to go in, really take a step back, go in small, build it up, build a nice strong base, and then you can assess more higher level skills as we get a little bit closer to the students, where we can be face to face.
Erin, I'm not sure if that's something you can answer for us, but telemed, Marie-Ann, I know you spoke about a little about that too. How are assessments happening across the board from any of you? And I know, Lori, you have to go, so.
I do. I want to thank you, everyone. I do have to run, but thank you, everyone. And Pam has my contact information, so if you have any more questions, I will reply. So I got to go, but thank you again, and goodbye.
Perfect. Thanks, Lori. So how are we assessing students remotely? That's got to be a real challenge.
I'll just address this quick. There are some issues about assessment as it relates to the validity of the assessment virtually, and there are some questions about that in terms of the data collection and the way you actually do that. Most assessments, they're asking teachers to be face-to-face as it relates to qualification for services. But if we're talking about assessment as it relates to progress or present level of performance, that could be done in a variety of ways. Aaron, others?
I'm finding it a big challenge because a lot of what I do is hands-on, and
yeah.
Our district is requiring plexiglass between the person giving the test and the student right now. That's difficult for me as a physical therapist. So this is a huge question in my mind, to be honest. I'm hoping that it works out. There are some of, I use the Brunix as an assessment tool, and there are some things I can do. I think a lot of it's going to just have to be visual modeling from a distance, and what I can see, from that distance. I don't know. It's going to be a work in progress, I think.
So like I said, I'm always listening and learning. I've seen a lot of posts about, and a lot of companies are doing take-home kits for PE, and of course everybody's trying to bring the most affordable options for a remote learning or hybrid situation. So in terms of assessment, is that something that could be kitted up, or could there be a package of tools that could provide, where it gets sent home through the mail, and then there's an assessment, and PT, OT, or PE could telemed and or FaceTime and see how it's going and perform their assessment?
We have a current project right now with Golisano Children's Hospital and our local Racker preschool local community, where we're using or tapping existing teleservices to promote physical activity. We had a discussion actually this morning about assessment and how we could use, for example, Aaron, we use the TGMD3 test of gross motor development, which is fundamental motor skills. It has some object control in it. And so basically, I'm losing my battery. Basically that we're able to access and use some of that literature and best practice as it relates to doing screening. But full assessments, I'm not sure if that's been validated in regards to the actual procedural reliability and ultimately validity of the data when it's done in a virtual manner versus face-to-face.
Right.
Interesting. Marie Ann, you talked a lot about the importance of visual cues during your presentation. Can you speak even, Daniel looks like he was looking for like a PE reference, but you integrate physical activity into your sessions all the time. So can you speak a little bit about that? And Daniel, you can chat in and see if we're answering your question detailed enough or specifically enough.
Yeah, and I think that I definitely use more of the visual cues. I think that a tactile cue, with what I'm understanding, it's probably not something that I use a whole lot. That someone else could probably answer a little better with that. Other than, really thinking outside of the box with those things. It's difficult because it's hard to supply everything you need to the family. So. Tim or, I was thinking, who is it? Stephanie.
Yep, Stephanie, I think she had to go too, yes.
Yeah, I think she would be able to better answer that.
That's okay, and we can take that question offline and detail it and push them forward to everybody. I'm thinking in terms of tactile cues. Mm-hmm.
The only thing I could think of is, the good thing is some of my students who need tactile cues, to keep their balance during certain things or use proper positioning during certain exercises, a lot of them I've been lucky enough to teach the parents ahead of time, so the parents, you know, knew how to do it properly and can do it with them. And hopefully, you know, you can get lucky enough that your student is in a household where the parents can do it with them or know how to do that. You know, that is a struggle. That was a struggle for me, you know, as a physical therapist, because when I'm trying to teach a student who has processing trouble how to do a proper push-up, you know, it's very difficult unless you're there giving them, you know, a cue here and a cue here. I guess that visual modeling has to take over, you know. Hopefully you have the ability to do it with them visually, you know, online, and, you know, follow me, look at my back, look at my arms, do what I'm doing, try to mirror me, do the same thing I'm doing. You know, if you don't have that parent there, hopefully they can follow along with at least a visual model. But that's a tough one. That's a big obstacle for me as a physical therapist.
Yeah.
On the tactile thing, you know, cause and effect, any opportunity you can do that promotes cause and effect, whether it's a button that hits makes a sound, whether it's the sound stepper that makes a sound, whether I stomp on it, I sit on it, I touch it, I smash it, do what I do. Oh, I forgot how to do that. Can you show me? These are all cues and little things that will prompt, not only when you're in a virtual space, will prompt not only the child, but sometimes we have to ask the parent, just like, don't do it for them. You know, they're right there doing it. Like, no, let them do it on their own. So again, like Erin said, it's going back to, you know, working with the parents, communicating with the parents, and making sure that when we're talking about kiddos with more significant behavioral and disabilities, it's I go to a sensory mode right away.
Yeah, I'm thinking, you know, at home, what do you have around the house? You know, sponges, a hairbrush, for tactile cues. You know, smooth versus rough, things like that, things that a family could just kind of, you know, every family has and can work with the movement or skill that or lesson that is being, you know, needs to happen at the home. And I think though,
most children will have a preference of what they like and what they avoid. So yeah, frame it, you know, from those perspectives too.
That's interesting. Okay.
And Pam, I just wanted to kind of also to kind of a lot what I'm hearing is it's that parent training piece. And I know when we were doing remote, even though our sessions should have been about an hour with the individual, I spent a lot of time before those sessions talking to the parents and really, you know, when I had my registered behavior technicians doing some of the work remotely for an hour, there was so much prep work before, because it really needed, I had to let them know, you know, instead of expecting the parents to run 10 different programs during an hour, we really had to back off and just have the parents be successful at teaching one program. And bring, you know, you're eliminating, they're like, oh, but they keep getting out of the seat, and the parents are just kind of letting them get out of the seat. And, you know, and I'm like, but did you know, focus on one skill during that session and bring down all these expectations. What is the priority during that session? And really help teach the parent that one skill. When you're expecting, I also explained to a lot of the parents, we're expecting them to come in as PTs, as OTs, as behavior technicians, and just do our job. And they don't have all of the experience that we do. So, you know, I couldn't go in as a doctor. You know, if you told me what to do with my daughter, I couldn't do those things. So really just empathizing with the families and spending that time focusing on that one skill and breaking it down.
I think that's really helpful, even, you know, just understanding that parent perspective. As a parent myself, you know, my son, I quickly realized that his ADD also turned to, you know, was very specific to things. And so he would have a question to answer, and it was multiple parts, but it wasn't broken down like, you know, A, B, C. It was just, you know, answer this, comma this, comma this. He would answer only the first part. And I was getting a little frustrated, and I realized, like, that's where his mind is going. And I helped him. I broke it down into A, B, and C, and then you go and you check off A, B, C. But as a parent, not in the classroom, I do have a good relationship with the teachers, and I advocate, and we're in good communication. It was a challenge. Like, I didn't realize the needs that he required to be a successful student, and luckily he is. So when you're dealing with students with even more significant needs, I think it's very overwhelming for parents, and I could totally see like a parent training session needs to happen if it's not already happening. I'm wondering, is that something that occurs or not usually?
Yeah, Marianne, we know we're planning a fall parent training for our sensory-based activities. Number one, to celebrate the families, celebrate their work, celebrate the time, celebrate their individual stories, and let them share. And then, secondly, to provide a window of training, 10, 15 minutes of information, shared resources that we're going to give to part of our, what we reference as our Sensory Fit Families project, which is part of the Golisano and Racker Center project that Marianne is with me on.
That's great. Is that what the pre-K play rollouts?
Yes, the pre-K play, and I sent you a video of a little one engaged.
I saw it.
Which is so cute.
I saw it. It's just wonderful.
Yeah, so good stuff there. And like I said, I use those vinyl rollouts as assessment. For me, that's a go-to, just to be observing, watching kids move authentically.
Yeah, authentically.
Authentic assessment, watching them move, how they move, what they do, and what they avoid. Big picture, what they avoid.
That's a good point. That's a good point. I mean, it's kind of like, you gotta wear masks. But how is that gonna function in a PE world environment? And I think that's the big question.
Mask. And
what can they do?
Right,
yeah.
Mask and a clear visor, or a clear visor so kids can see when you're speaking. That's often a big one because they're visual versus auditory. Marianne, you know that, Aaron?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Really comes back to that same question of what can we do, what can we not do, and then what's left over. What is it that we can do safely? And it seems to come back to, individual stations or circuits, socially distant apart. And it sounds like the focus, from at least my point of view, is, and what I'm seeing on social media is, it's more of a focus on wellness and mindfulness, and and fitness, but not really one-on-one or obviously no contact lessons. Is that correct, team?
Yeah, Pam, I've shared with you my preference. I love your spots, your sticker spots, just the spots, and then the color coordinated lines. So if it's a red, yellow, blue, green, I've got 46, 48 spots, 12 feet apart in my gym space. If I have my gym space, kids come in, they stand on their particular spot. We'll do Go Noodle. We'll do some sort of instant activity because they walk in, they know right where they have to go find a spot, and it's 12 feet from everybody else. But if I look down and I'm on blue, I know when I transition to my activity, I go to the blue line with my 3 other classmates, and then I start my activity, which might be a vinyl rollout or might be something there. I'm on a routine, so it's 45 seconds or 60 seconds or 90 seconds depending on what the activity is, and then they continue through that activity until we hit the prompt that says, hey, time to rotate, and then we rotate as a group to the next one. Everybody slides up one, and then when we come back to our spots, everybody gets another spot and goes from there. But giving kids those visual cues to help them physically distance and not socially distance is important.
Okay. Aaron or Tim, maybe you can step in on that question. It's a loaded question, right?
At the
in terms of sanitizing between, I'm not sure.
Oh, go ahead, Aaron. I'm sorry. My bad.
No, I just wasn't sure what he meant. What his question was, how to sanitize in between, or which equipment to use.
She didn't elaborate. It says, what would you recommend for equipment sharing? So I think what she's saying is what equipment can be shared. I'm just envisioning, my short answer is things that hands aren't touching and faces aren't touching. I don't know if you have any other suggestions for Charlie.
One drives the other. Curriculum is what's going to drive the equipment. So know what you're going to teach, then you know what you need to get, and then you know how to clean it. So, or you know how many you need. You know, so that's what we're doing, you know, obviously at the college with our physical activity classes, which are face-to-face with equipment. We know what the curriculum is going to be. We know what we're going to teach. And so we set it up. So if we have 24 rackets, we've got 24 rackets, right? And if we only have 12, we're going to have to whiten down in between before we hand them down. There's a procedure that goes with that, you know, and it all depends on the age level of your kiddos as to their ability to navigate some of those instructions as it relates to cleaning and cleaning effectively.
Before everybody goes, I want to just say how thankful we are for our panelists and all these attendees. This was our first ever virtual meeting, and the response was enormous, and we really hope it was of value to you. I want to say here at Fit and Fun, we have been working with schools for quite some time now. It's just about 10 years, and I'm so happy to see many customers and colleagues, social media friends here. We've always viewed our relationship with our customers as a partnership. The panelists here, I did not prompt them to use our products. They're just naturally, there's a connection there. We view our customers as partners that recognize the importance of physical activity, wellness, and health in children's lives. We hope to continue to respond to the needs of schools and your students, and we have lots of new ideas in development to continue to make school a great place to learn. We're looking at more economical choices as well. We were hoping that you could take a look at our website soon, or when there comes a time when you need engaging, colorful activities and graphics for your kiddos. All of our products are made, designed, or printed here right in the U.S., so that means it's quality materials and inks that meet stringent safety and performance standards. You'd also be supporting a small local business as well, so we appreciate that. If you have any questions, just email us at robbierobot at FitandFunLLC.com. Sherry, could you put up the next slide so they can catch that? Perfect, thank you. And if you can visit our website or follow us on social media channels, we're always posting new resources, many of which are free. We've got, like I said, some new fresh ideas coming up, helpful tips we post. We do giveaways. We have a lot of fun with those, and we try to provide a discount on a monthly basis. But I'm going to end it again, and thank you really once again for everyone joining us. Thank you to our panelists. You are awesome. And I look forward to working with everybody here on this call. Again, reach out to us if you have any questions, and stay strong, be safe, and we really might do this again real soon sometimes. Okay?
Thanks, Pam. Happy birthday.
Oh, yes. Happy birthday to me.
Happy birthday.
Bye, everybody.
Thanks again.
Bye.
Okay, bye.